Maka Si Tomni, I would like to introduce you to what we term the Lakota Paradigm. Today, technology has given us a wherewithal to really look at the globe and see again the working systems, recognizing watersheds, drainages, looking at the world differently, not so much as by the political boundaries and the things that divide us, but looking at the natural features that unite us all with everything in creation. Lakota creation story, much like other indigenous people, connects us to the land and how we are part of the land and how we emerged out of the land and how we become to be. And where we are today, the Lakota people, we live within a political boundary called a reservation, but it's well within what we call the Aboriginal territory. And where this territory presently resides is right here near the Black Hills. And to the Lakota people, we refer to the Black Hills as the center of all there is. And the Black Hills, looking at it geologically, embody some of the world's oldest geological formations, many of the formations being igneous, that ties to the center of the earth, the molten core of this planet. So with that, the Lakota people have had these kind of what I call scientific discoveries, relevancies, to know this working system and how it came to be and how they came to be part of it. So there again, the Lakota paradigm has that sense of reality of where we live and what's here and what we need to survive. And even from that, as I mentioned, natural law was the basis for our spirituality. And that is something that is very dear to the Lakota people, is their sense of belonging and relationship, and how that's been part of adherence to natural law and surviving within an environment that has been very harsh. So to present to you what the Lakota paradigm is, we have an example for you, but also the Lakota people, for what they've been able to do here in this part of the world, is strike a relationship with the environment. And one of those great animals that they struck a relationship was the buffalo, which today, when you look at the buffalo, is one of America's most successful ecological stories, who's made a comeback from almost being distinct. So with that, that parallels the culture that we live in now. We're almost killed out ourselves, but here we are right now, and today we're thriving. And this is what Maka Si Tomni is all about, is that thriving culture. So looking back at ancestral processes, ancestral ways of living, that's the basis of who we are today, and I think we can learn some valuable lessons. And there again, Maka Si Tomni, presenting the thriving culture of the Lakota people, looks back to the past and what we can carry forward to the future. So as an example, here's a story that ties in the past, but yes, it ties in the present and has great relevance to the future. The way Lakota people used to record their history was on painted hides, and a lot of their designs embodied information. There again, that's part of our paradigm. We have an oral history, we have an oral language, but when we start rendering iconic images on hides and designs, that becomes our written language. So within the traditions of recording events iconographically, there was an artist in the 1890s. His name was Amos Badheart-Bull, and he recorded the Oglala history, and that's presently within a book. And within one of his drawings, he actually drew a map of the Black Hills. It's very interesting that we would record this kind of information, or he did, and you can see how the information that he had gathered, I see this as part of the Lakota paradigm, where it was not just his idea. He sat down in a consensual fashion with other experts, domain experts, and he discussed this. And yes, out of that meeting came a graphic image of the Black Hills, of a collective mindset of wise people. So this map that this man drew in the 1890s shows the Black Hills for what it is to the Lakota people, but also interesting, coming out of the Black Hills he drew the important things, which was the hydrology. So you'll see all the little creeks coming out off the eastern slope of the Black Hills, which goes through the prairies down to what we call the Cheyenne and White River, that goes into the Missouri River, which goes into the Mississippi River, and all the way down to the Mississippi Delta. So you'll see that this part of the world plays an important function for the hydrology and feeding the Great Prairies. Well, we knew this, and there it is on the map showing the important features of hydrology. But also within this map are sacred sites to the Black Hills. And those sacred sites, as he's identified on this map, also tied to Lakota constellations in the sky. Very interesting how we've been able to connect the cosmos with the land that we live on. So when these stars come up in certain positions in the time of the year, we follow a ceremonial year that references these sacred sites within the Black Hills. So Amos Badheart's map gives us an insight into how the Lakota people viewed the earth, but also what was important to them. So you can see a lot of the geographic features, but most importantly was what I seen in the map, which he really recorded well, was the hydrology. And that is the essence of all life, is the water. Now I want to present to you another map that really contrasts, that really kind of exemplifies the Lakota paradigm, because what the Lakota have done with their map and what you'll see what is done today technologically will give you an idea of what we need today to understand this world that we live on. Contrasting Amos Badheart Bull's map is an image that was taken from the space shuttle, taken by Native American astronaut James Harrington. He was requested that he take a picture of the Black Hills. So when we looked at this picture in contrast with Amos Badheart Bull's rendering, they were identically scale to scale. I could not believe the detail of scale. The picture that we see from space is the same picture we see with the hand-drawn map done in the 1890s. But there again, I want to profile to you the difference in these two maps. One map was created from a culture that walked the land, that actually, what I say, lived the data. They knew everything about the land. Now we have another culture that has taken pictures of the Black Hills, but does not know anything about the Black Hills. Only thing that they really know is the resources that were there to be exploited. So today, as we know, the Black Hills right now has a defunct gold mine. All the gold has been taken out of there. What I want to bring to mind to everybody here is that contrast to what we have, a highly technical society who launches a space shuttle. And as I understand, every time the space shuttle launches, it's really an environmental disaster. I've known that, I don't know, I've heard a quote like 60,000 tons of sulfuric acid just spews out of the fire that launches the space shuttle. So that alone is very scary, when you hear about the environmental disaster that occurs every time a space shuttle is launched. This is why you see it launching about 5 miles away. That's where the only cameras can be. But yet, with all that technological might to project themselves above the earth, a lot of people have yet to really walk the earth, to understand that earth that we live on. The intricacies, looking down at the flora and fauna, even in so much as crawling on the ground to see the insects. So the paradigm that we're comparing here is today's society, how we can do these things technologically, but yet we know nothing about this earth. So Maka Si Tomni, presenting this paradigm of how it used to be and how it can be again.